My fork hovers halfway to my mouth, laden with sweet potato casserole, as my father's words slice through the muted clatter of Thanksgiving dinner. You're nothing but a leech. It's time for you to leave this house. The sweet potato suddenly looks foreign, unappetizing. Around me, the dining room falls into a silence so complete I can hear the antique clock ticking from the living room. The same clock I paid to repair last month. I look up, searching for something, anything in my mother's face. But Denise stares intently at her plate, rearranging green beans she hasn't touched. Across from me, my 17-year-old sister Tessa's eyes have gone wide, fixed on her half-empty glass of water. What makes this betrayal so sharp is the timing. I spent the entire morning in the kitchen, basting the turkey, whipping potatoes, and baking 3 different pies while they watched football. Just 20 minutes ago, I shared news about my promotion at work. Now, as steam rises from the food I prepared, my father declares me unwelcome. The irony doesn't escape me. My name is on the electric bill that keeps these lights glowing, the water bill that filled the glasses on this table, the grocery receipt for every morsel of this meal, and the insurance statement that covered my mother's doctor appointment last week. Yet somehow, I'm the burden. 3 months ago, when Mom lost her job at the accounting firm, I stepped in without hesitation. The bills piled up faster than excuses, and Frank's part-time work at the hardware store barely covered the mortgage. I started paying for everything else: utilities, groceries, car insurance, even Mom's medical expenses. Each month, as more accounts transferred to my name, Dad grew more distant, more resentful. His signature, once required for everything in this household, became increasingly irrelevant. His authority, diminishing. 2 weeks ago, I overheard him talking to Mr. Simmons next door, his voice carrying through the open kitchen window. "It's not right," he complained, leaning against the fence. "A man losing control of his own household. She acts like she owns the place now." I didn't realize he meant me until I heard him say my name. Frank stares at me now, his jaw clenched tight, waiting for tears or protests. When I simply continue eating, his knuckles whiten around his fork. The sweet potato tastes like nothing in my mouth, but I chew methodically, swallow, and take another bite. "Did you hear what I said?" His voice rises, thick with irritation. "You need to be out by the weekend." My hands tremble slightly, but not from fear, from something deeper, something shifting inside me. I set down my fork, place my napkin beside my plate, and meet his gaze. I understand perfectly. I understand perfectly. These 3 words hang in the air, not tearful or angry but calm, almost thoughtful. Frank blinks, clearly thrown by my composure. The silence stretches until Mom finally speaks, but not to defend me. "Blair," she says, voice hushed and hurried. "You'll still pay the medical insurance this month, right? I have that appointment on Tuesday." And there it is. The full picture comes into perfect, painful focus. Not family, just a financial resource. Not daughter, just a signature on the bottom of checks. I stand and collect my plate, along with Tessa's empty glass. "Of course, Mom," I answer, my voice steady despite the hollow feeling spreading through my chest. "I'll take care of it before I go." As I move toward the kitchen, my mind catalogs everything in this house that bears my name. The internet service I upgraded when Tessa needed it for school. The refrigerator I replaced when the old one died in July. The utility accounts transferred to me when the warnings of disconnection arrived. I rinse my plate at the sink, methodically scraping uneaten food into the garbage disposal. Through the kitchen window, I can see my car in the driveway, the only thing I own outright that isn't tied to this house. At least I'll have that when I leave. Behind me, I hear Tessa's chair scrape against the floor as she brings her plate to the kitchen. When she places it beside the sink, she doesn't meet my eyes, but her fingertips brush against my wrist for the briefest moment. It's the closest thing to support I've felt in months. The digital clock on my nightstand blinks 1:18 a.m. as I fold another sweater into my suitcase. Sleep feels impossible with the weight of Frank's words still ringing in my ears. I've been packing methodically for hours, my movements automatic while my mind races. I reach for the stack of financial documents I keep in my desk drawer: insurance statements, utility bills, grocery receipts, planning to sort what I need to take. But underneath them, I spot a bank statement with Frank's name. Strange. I haven't seen paper statements for months. Everything switched to electronic after Mom lost her job. I pull it out, then another, and another. A small stack of statements spanning the last 3 months, all for an account I've never seen before. An account with a balance that grows each month while I've been draining my savings to keep the lights on. My hands shake as I drop onto the edge of my bed. The statements blur before my eyes until I blink hard, forcing myself to focus on the numbers. $4,000 in July, $5,000 in August, nearly $7,000 now. Flipping through the rest of the documents, I find a boat dealer's brochure with Frank's handwritten notes in the margins. Down payment, $5,500, circled in blue ink. Schedule delivery after Thanksgiving underlined twice. A fishing boat. While I've been paying for Mom's doctor visits and the internet Tessa needs for school, there's more. A notepad with dates jotted down. November utility due dates, my name with question marks. After bills paid, written and underlined. They've been planning this for weeks, waiting until I covered November's expenses before kicking me out. A soft knock interrupts my thoughts. The door opens just enough for Tessa to slip through, her eyes wide as she takes in the packed boxes and open suitcases. "You're really leaving?" she asks, hovering by the door like she's preparing a quick escape. I sit surrounded by the physical evidence of my family's betrayal, while Tessa stands with one hand still on the doorknob. The power imbalance isn't lost on me, her freedom to walk away, my forced departure. "Dad didn't give me much choice," I answer, tucking the bank statements into my purse. Tessa chews her bottom lip. "Mom said they need your room for storage now that Dad's buying that boat." The casual confirmation hits like a physical blow. "Boat?" "The fishing boat he put a deposit on last month." Tessa's voice drops to nearly a whisper. "I heard them planning all this weeks ago. How they'd wait until after you paid the bills for November." "You knew?" The betrayal expands, growing tendrils that reach even to Tessa. Her eyes fill with tears. "I was scared to tell you. Dad said anyone who warned you would be next." I want to be angry with her, but the fear in her face is too real. She's still a child navigating the same manipulative household I'm escaping. "There's more," she continues, glancing nervously at the hallway. "Those medical appointments Mom's been having? The ones you've been paying for with your insurance? What about them?" Last week she came home with her lips all puffy. She told Dad the doctor said she couldn't drink through a straw for 2 days. Tessa mimics our mother's distinctive eye roll. "It wasn't a checkup, Blair. It was fillers." The room seems to tilt slightly. I've been eating ramen noodles 3 times a week to stretch my budget while my mother gets cosmetic procedures on my insurance. I pull out my bank app, showing Tessa my account balance, $763.42. 3 months ago, I had over $9,000 saved. This is what's left of my savings after covering everything here. I tell her, if I'd stayed even one more month, I'd have nothing left. The severity of my situation crystallizes as I say it aloud. I've been on the brink of financial ruin, pouring everything into a family that sees me as nothing more than an ATM, Dad said. "If you try to take any furniture, he'll report you for theft." Tessa says, "Even the stuff you bought." Of course he did. I glance around at the desk I purchased when I started working from home during the pandemic, the bookshelf I assembled myself, the bedding I bought with my first paycheck. He also called the bank today about getting your name off the utility accounts. The time pressure hits me. I need to secure housing, protect what remains of my finances, and untangle myself from the family accounts before they can cause more damage. I reach under my bed and pull out a shoebox. Inside are receipts for everything I've purchased for the house, organized, dated, with my credit card statements attached. The desk, the new refrigerator, Tessa's laptop, the living room carpet, even utility bills, with my name clearly listed as the account holder. A small victory in this sea of betrayal. Proof that I'm not crazy, that I've been carrying this household while they plotted behind my back. Tessa watches me sort through the receipts, her expression unreadable. "Blair?" she asks finally. "Yes? What would you do in my place? If you had to choose between standing up for what's right and keeping peace in the only home you have?" As I sorted through these receipts in the middle of the night, I faced a difficult choice. Should I confront my parents with evidence of their manipulation? Or simply leave and let them discover the consequences on their own? Standing up for myself might bring closure, but a quiet exit would avoid a painful confrontation. What would you do when the people who should love you unconditionally have proven they only value what you provide? I look at my sister, caught in the same toxic environment I'm escaping, and realize I don't have an easy answer for either of us. 3 days later, while I am at lunch break at my part-time job, My Aunt Phyllis's voice crackles through the phone, each word landing like a slap. Honestly, Blair, I never thought you'd abandon your parents when they needed you most. I grip the phone tighter, watching my knuckles turn white. 3 days since Thanksgiving, and Frank has already constructed his version of events for the family to consume. Did Dad mention he kicked me out? I ask, keeping my voice level. He said you left them high and dry after a little disagreement, she says, her tone heavy with judgment. They're organizing a family meeting at my house this weekend to discuss your behavior. Of course they are. A public forum where they control the narrative. I'm sure they are, I say, and end the call before she can respond. After the shift, I came to my friend's home. I sink onto the edge of Drew's pull-out couch, now my temporary bed. My entire life sits in 4 hastily packed boxes and 2 suitcases stacked against the wall. Everything I couldn't fit waits in my car downstairs. 25 years reduced to what I could grab in 2 frantic hours while my parents were at church on Sunday. My phone buzzes again. Another text from a cousin who's heard I've broken Mom's heart. I don't open it. The constant notifications have created a new anxiety. Each alert sends my heart racing, wondering which relative will attack next. When Drew returns from her shift at the hospital, she finds me cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by paperwork. Operation Financial Freedom? Going well? She asks, dropping her bag by the door. Almost done. I tap my pen against a notebook filled with account numbers. I've canceled the automatic payments for their utilities, removed myself from their cell phone plan, and called to take my name off their internet service. What I don't say is how the customer service representative laughed when I explained that, yes, I was voluntarily removing myself from financial responsibility for my parents' bills. Good, Drew says, settling beside me. Your parents can figure out their own mess. The weight of starting over presses against my chest. My savings account shows a balance that would make most financial advisors wince. 3 months of covering my family's expenses has left me with barely enough for a security deposit on my own place, let alone first and last month's rent. You sure your roommate doesn't mind me crashing here? I ask. Max? He's thrilled to have. The front door swings open, and Max bursts in with his enormous golden retriever bounding ahead of him. Blair, Max announces. You have to meet the world's worst therapist, but he works for treats. He tosses a tennis ball across the apartment, and Baxter launches after it, all flailing paws and wagging tail. The dog returns, dropping the slobbery ball in my lap with expectant eyes. He thinks you need this more than he does, Max says, his expression serious despite the ridiculousness of the moment. Sometimes the best therapy has 4 legs and terrible breath. When Baxter nudges my hand with his wet nose, I find myself laughing for the first time in days. The sound surprises me, almost foreign to my ears. 5 days after my escape, I sit at Drew's kitchen table, laptop open to job listings that might offer better pay. My current position covers my basic needs, but not the kind of emergency fund I'll need to truly rebuild. My phone lights up with my mother's name. I consider letting it go to voicemail, but something tells me to answer. What have you done? Denise's voice comes through sharp and panicked. The power's out, the internet's down, and my insurance was declined at my appointment. I take a slow breath, feeling strangely calm. I stopped paying for things that weren't my responsibility. But you can't just leave us like this. We're your family. The desperation in her voice might have moved me once, but now I hear the manipulation beneath it. Family doesn't call family a leech at Thanksgiving dinner. I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Your father didn't mean it. Her tone shifts to something softer, placating. You know how he gets. I do know. That's the problem. I end the call and set my phone down carefully, as if it might burn me. Later that evening, Drew leans over my shoulder as I create new passwords for my email and banking accounts. I notice some suspicious login attempts on your accounts, she says, pointing to the security alerts. We should set up fraud alerts just to be safe. The contrast isn't lost on me, Drew asks, before borrowing my charging cable, while my family felt entitled to everything I owned. Even now, Drew stands a respectful distance away, waiting for my response instead of grabbing the laptop to do it herself. Good idea, I say. Thanks. That night, I find myself scrolling through apartment listings within my budget. Small studios, most of them, but they represent something I've never fully had, a space that's completely mine, where no one can tell me I don't belong. I don't ask anyone's opinion about the neighborhoods, or worry whether the kitchens are big enough for family gatherings. The decisions are mine alone. The next morning, I head to a local credit union and open a new account under just my name. I transfer every penny from my old account, the one my parents know about. My phone pings with a text from Tessa. Mom looking for your banking info. Says she needs to check something. Don't trust her. I've barely finished reading when my phone explodes with notifications, 6 missed calls from home in the last hour. Simultaneously, an email appears. Fraud alert, password reset attempt on your banking app. I stare at the screen, anger rising like a tide. They're not just trying to guilt me into coming back. They're trying to take what little I have left. A day later, the bank representative's voice carries a note of concern that feels strangely validating. Miss Mitchell, we've blocked 3 separate password reset attempts from your parents' home address in the last 24 hours. I grip my phone tighter, pacing the small confines of Drew's spare bedroom that has become my temporary sanctuary. And you're certain they can't access anything? Positive. We've flagged your account for enhanced security measures. Any changes will require in-person verification with photo ID. My chest loosens slightly as I thank her and end the call, adding her name to my growing documentation notebook. Methodical calls have yielded similar results: credit cards secured, utilities formally removed from my name, and medical insurance accounts protected with additional verification steps. The electric company representative had sounded almost impressed. Smart move contacting us. Your mother called yesterday trying to reinstate service in your name without authorization. Each confirmation acts like a brick in the wall I'm building between my former life and whatever comes next. Not a wall of anger, though that simmers beneath the surface, but of protection, solid, necessary, and entirely of my own design. Drew appears in the doorway with a steaming mug. Tea with honey. Thought you could use it after all those calls. I accept it gratefully, wrapping my hands around the warmth. Last one done. Nobody can access or change anything without my direct approval now. Drew nods approvingly. How does it feel? Before I can answer, a thunderous pounding rattles the apartment door. The tea sloshes over my fingers as Drew and I exchange startled glances. Blair. My father's voice booms through the wood. Open this door right now. Drew motions for me to stay put, but I'm already moving. This confrontation has been inevitable since the moment I walked out. The pounding intensifies as I approach, each impact like a physical blow. Through the peephole, I see my father's face, flushed and contorted with rage. I've seen directed at bill collectors, telemarketers, and now me. I know you're in there. Another series of blows makes the door frame shudder. You think you can just abandon your family and destroy our lives? A door opens across the hall, and Mrs. Perkins, a retiree who baked cookies for Drew when he first moved in, peers out cautiously. Her eyes widen at the sight of Frank pounding and shouting. Young man, she calls, her voice quavering but determined. I've already called building security. Frank whirls toward her. Mind your own business, lady. This is between me and my daughter. Your behavior is my business when it disturbs the peace, she retorts, pulling her robe tighter around herself. Frank turns back to the door, his voice dropping to something more dangerous. Blair, if you don't open this door right now, I'll... The threat transforms into action as he steps back and kicks the door hard enough to splinter the wood around the lock. Mrs. Perkins gasps and retreats inside her apartment. My hands tremble as I dial 911, speaking quietly to the dispatcher while Frank continues his assault on the door. Through the damaged wood, I hear the elevator ding, followed by heavy footsteps. Sir, step away from the door immediately. The authoritative voice of the building's security guard cuts through Frank's shouts. This is my daughter's place. I have every right. You have no right to damage property or disturb residents. Police have been called. Frank's response is lost in the sound of sirens approaching outside. Minutes later, I watch through the peephole as 2 officers escort my father down the hallway, his wrists cuffed behind his back, while he continues to shout that I'm the one destroying our family. When the police officer returns to take my statement, I provide it calmly, describing the financial manipulation, the unauthorized access attempts, and today's outburst with the same detached precision I've used in my documentation notebook. The officer Rodriguez, according to his nameplate, nods thoughtfully as he takes notes. Would you like to press charges for the attempted break-in? The question hangs in the air as Drew returns from speaking with building management about the damaged door. Yes. I say, the words small but firm, and I'd like to file for a restraining order. Later, as I watch the police car drive away with my father in the back seat, I wonder, was filing an official report too harsh a response to years of manipulation? Or was it the necessary step to protect myself from further harm? Drew squeezes my shoulder gently. Max is bringing home some security cameras for the entrance. We'll set them up tonight. I nod, grateful for the practical support that asks nothing in return. My phone buzzes with a text from Tessa. Mom took your laptop and camera from your room, said they're collateral for what you owe them. The message lands like a stone in my stomach. More theft to add to the emotional robbery they've committed for years. I thumb a quick response. Do you know where she took them? Tessa's reply comes almost instantly. Heard her on the phone with Parkway Pawn. Said she got $300 for both. Cated. I show Drew the message, anger rising fresh and hot in my throat. Those were worth over $2,000. Do you have the receipts? Serial numbers? I nod, thinking of the meticulous documentation I've maintained for tax purposes. Everything. An hour later, Officer Williams takes my theft report with appropriate seriousness, examining my purchase receipts and noting the serial numbers. Pawning someone else's property is a criminal offense, she explains, her tone professional but kind. We'll contact the shop and recover your items. The system that felt so often stacked against me now works in my service, a strange reversal that leaves me lightheaded with possibility. That evening, my phone begins lighting up with calls from relatives I haven't spoken to in months. Aunt Sarah's message is the first I listen to. Blair, honey, I heard about Frank's arrest. I'm so sorry. We had no idea things were so bad. The neighbors who witnessed Frank's outburst have apparently shared their observations, shifting the public narrative my parents tried to control. The story is spreading, cracks forming in the facade my parents constructed. As I help Max mount the security camera above Drew's door, another text from my mother arrives. The casual entitlement of her words makes my jaw clench. I had to pawn your camera and laptop to cover the electric bill you left us with. Parkway Pawn on 4th Street. You owe me $300 plus interest. In K. I pass the phone to Drew, who reads it and shakes her head in disbelief. The delusion is almost impressive, she mutters, handing it back. I save the message as evidence, my anger not at her audacity but at how long I allowed myself to believe I deserved such treatment. The revelation settles into determination as I finish securing the camera that will capture any future attempts to invade the new boundaries I've built. This time, I'm the one watching. My phone vibrates against the coffee table, my mother's name flashing on the screen. I've been waiting for this call. 3 days since I filed the police report about my stolen laptop and camera, and finally, they're ready to negotiate. Blair? Mom's voice trembles slightly. I've been thinking about everything, and I want to propose a compromise. I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. In the background, I hear the television playing the same game show that used to fill our living room every weekday at this hour. If you drop that ridiculous theft report, you can come back home. She pauses, clears her throat. We'll let you continue living here, of course. Your room is still exactly as you left it. The rehearsed quality of her words is unmistakable. I picture Dad hovering nearby, nodding approval at her performance. And Blair, she continues when I don't respond. I think we should discuss your state of mind lately. Frank and I are concerned that you might be having some kind of breakdown. That's something our friends and family would understand better than what you're claiming happened. The threat lands with perfect clarity. Drop the charges or be labeled unstable. I take a slow breath. I have copies of every bill I've paid for the last 6 months. I say, my voice steady. I have bank statements showing transfers to your account. I have text messages asking me to pay for your cosmetic procedures that you claimed were medical necessities. I pause. Would you like me to present all of that as evidence? The silence on the other end tells me everything I need to know. The next morning, Officer Williams follows my car to my parents' house. Her police cruiser parked in the driveway sends a clear message to the neighbors who've been fed my father's lies. As we walk to the front door, I notice curtains twitching in windows across the street. Mom answers the door, her smile faltering when she sees the officer. Mrs. Mitchell, Officer Williams says, I'm here to accompany Blair, while she retrieves her remaining belongings. Inside, the house feels smaller than I remember. Mom hovers nearby as I head straight for my bedroom, Officer Williams following close behind. I've prepared copies of all my financial contributions. I tell the officer, handing her a folder I've been compiling. Utilities, groceries, medical bills, the new refrigerator I purchased in July, all with receipts. Officer Williams flips through the pages, her eyebrows rising. You paid for all of this while living here? Yes. For the past 6 months, since my mother lost her job. Mom appears in the doorway, arms crossed. That furniture belongs to the family, Blair. You can't just take everything. I pull a stack of receipts from my bag and hold them up. I have receipts for everything I'm taking. Would you like to see them? Officer Williams studies my mother's face, then glances back at the financial records. The surprise in her eyes is unmistakable. Mrs. Mitchell, these documents show your daughter has been supporting this household almost entirely on her own. Mom's mouth opens, then closes. She retreats down the hallway without another word. I work methodically, packing books, clothes, and the remaining items that are unquestionably mine. Through my bedroom window, I can see the neighbors watching from their porches, pretending to water plants or check mail. Let them see. Let them know the truth. When the last box is loaded into my car, I turn to lock the front door one final time. The sound of an engine draws my attention to the street. My other car that I'd left parked at Drew's apartment, pulls into the driveway, my father behind the wheel. My stomach drops. The spare key. I'd forgotten about the spare key I'd given them for emergencies. Dad steps out, jingling my keys in his hand. His expression is triumphant as he walks toward me. We need to discuss what you owe us before you take this too, he says, gesturing toward the vehicle I'm about to drive away in. I set down the box I'm holding and reach into my purse, pulling out a folder of documents I've been carrying for precisely this moment. This is the title to that car, I say, holding up the paper. And this is the registration, both in my name. Officer Williams steps forward. Sir, that vehicle is registered to Blair. You need to hand over the keys immediately. The color drains from Dad's face as he looks from the documents to the officer. His hand tightens around the keys. I paid for her college, her braces, 18 years of... The keys, Mr. Mitchell. Officer Williams extends her hand. Slowly, Dad's fingers uncurl. The keys drop into the officer's palm with a soft jingle. As she passes them to me, I see something I've never witnessed before: my father's complete deflation. The man who has towered over our family for decades suddenly looks small, diminished. Come near me or my property again, I say, my voice clear and calm, and I'll file for a restraining order. I slide into my car, adjust the mirror, and turn the key. As I pull away from the curb, I see the neighbors still watching. Witnesses to the final act of our family drama, Mrs. Henderson from next door doesn't even pretend to be checking her mailbox anymore. She stands on her lawn, phone in hand, no doubt already spreading the news. In my rearview mirror, Tessa appears in the doorway. She's caught between worlds, one foot in the house where our parents remain, one hand raised in a tentative wave to me. Her face reflects both sorrow and something else: admiration, perhaps. The strength she hasn't yet found for herself. I'm 3 blocks away when my phone buzzes with a text. Tessa. They're blaming me now. What do I do? The light ahead turns red. I press the brake and stare at the screen, watching those 3 dots appear as she types something else, then disappear. My sister, the one innocent party in all of this, now stands where I once did, bearing the weight of our parents' manipulation. The light changes to green, but I remain still, cars honking behind me as I consider what comes next. Sunlight streams through gauzy curtains I chose myself, painting warm patterns across the hardwood floors of my apartment. 3 months have passed since I drove away from my parents' house with Officer Williams' business card tucked in my wallet. The difference between then and now still catches me by surprise sometimes. I run my fingers along the edge of my desk, where neatly organized bills fan out like a deck of cards: electricity, water, internet, renter's insurance, all in my name, all comfortably within my budget. No one else's financial emergencies hiding between the envelopes. My bank statement sits open beside them, the numbers growing modestly but steadily each month. The emergency fund I'd depleted supporting my family is slowly rebuilding itself. 6 months of security, that's my goal. I've already reached 2. The quiet contentment of making decisions without defending them feels like a luxury I'm still getting used to. Last weekend I painted an accent wall deep teal, without asking anyone's permission or hearing how I'd regret the color choice. The freedom to make even small choices feels enormous. A year later, my apartment buzzes with the gentle hum of conversation and laughter. I slide a golden brown turkey onto my dining table, smaller than last year's but cooked to perfection. The irony of hosting Thanksgiving isn't lost on me. "Can I help with anything?" Tessa asks, hovering uncertainly by the kitchen counter. My sister looks different now, taller somehow, though she hasn't grown an inch. Maybe it's the confidence she's developing away from our parents' shadow. "Your company is contribution enough," I tell her, the words flowing naturally. How different from the tally of expenses I once kept in my head, measuring my worth by what I provided. I move around my space with an ease that would have seemed impossible last November. The dishes don't match perfectly. The table is secondhand. But everything here is genuinely mine, chosen with care, rather than acquired through obligation. Drew raises her glass as we settle around the table. To found family and boundaries worth keeping. Max and Tessa lift their glasses in response. My sister has flourished since moving into her college dorm 3 months ago. I helped her navigate financial aid forms and housing applications, knowledge from my own journey becoming stepping stones for hers. Later, as Tessa and I sort through scholarship applications at my kitchen counter, she mentions the latest family update. "They lost the house last month," she says quietly. "Dad's still blaming the bank, the economy, everyone but himself. They're staying with Uncle Rick, but he's already dropping hints about them finding their own place." I nod, glancing at the stack of unopened letters on my bookshelf. 5 envelopes, all from my parents, all unread. Setting boundaries doesn't mean I don't sometimes wonder what they say. "They still blame you for everything," Tessa continues, her pen tapping against the scholarship form. "But honestly, they're just facing what would have happened anyway. Your money was just postponing the inevitable." I help her highlight a key section on the housing assistance application, thinking about choices and consequences. As I helped Tessa build her independent life, I sometimes wondered if I should respond to my parents' attempts to reconnect. Is maintaining complete separation the healthiest choice when family has betrayed you so deeply, or is there value in allowing limited contact on your own terms? What would you do when those who should have protected you want back into your life after you've finally found peace without them? My hand hovers over the brass doorknob, cold metal, smooth from decades of palms pushing through. I should knock. I should announce myself like a proper daughter returning home at 9:47 on a Tuesday night. But I hear laughter inside the drawing room. The expensive kind. The kind that comes after the third pour of scotch that costs more per bottle than most people's mortgage payments. My father's voice cuts through first. Rich, confident. The voice he uses when he's about to close a deal or ruin someone's life. Sometimes both at once. "Another round, gentlemen?" Glass clinks. Ice rattles. Sloane's laugh follows, sharp and bright. I know that laugh. She saves it for moments when someone's about to get destroyed and doesn't know it yet. I've heard it directed at opposing counsel, at nurses who displease her, at me when I was 19 and stupid enough to think my computer science degree impressed anyone in this family. I should walk away. Drive back to my anonymous apartment with its secondhand furniture and working locks that keep out everyone, including the people who share my last name. But then I hear it. 3 words that root my feet to the Persian runner beneath them. Rosewood Cottage sale. My grandmother's house. The only place in my entire childhood where someone looked at me and saw something other than a disappointment in a cardigan. I lean closer. The door is old. The seal imperfect. Sound travels. 20 million. My father's voice carries the weight of confession. Bad cases. Thought I could win them. Gambled wrong. Bryce Sterling speaks next. My ex-boyfriend. The one who told me I was brilliant right before he told me I wasn't wife material. His voice has that oily quality investment bankers cultivate. Smooth and slick and utterly without friction. The cottage appraises at $850,000. Quick sale, clean paperwork. My commission is 8%. $160,000 for me. Enough to cover your immediate obligations. And Meredith never has to know the extent of the problem. Sloane laughs again. She won't ask questions. She never does. Just signs whatever you put in front of her and smiles like a grateful puppy. My chest tightens. Not with surprise. With recognition. I could fix this. Right now. I could open this door, walk in, and offer to write a check. $20 million is nothing. Less than nothing. Aether Systems cleared $40 million in revenue last quarter alone. And the IPO opens tomorrow morning at a projected $84 per share. But I don't move. Because my father is still talking. Don't worry about her. She's too stupid to read the fine print. She'll sign whatever we put in front of her just to get a pat on the head. The words land like a fist to the sternum. Not a slap. A punch. The kind that knocks the air from your lungs and leaves you gasping. Stupid. She's been playing with computers for years. Sloane's voice drips with contempt. Still no real job. Still living in that sad little apartment. I posted a throwback photo of her last week, remember? From when she was 19? The comments were brutal. Everyone asking when she'll grow up and get a real career. At least the cottage sale is clean. Bryce again. Always Bryce, calculating his angle. She won't even understand what she's signing. Just tell her it's trust fund paperwork. She'll believe anything. My hand drops from the doorknob. 3 years ago, I paid off Sloane's credit card debt. $50,000 in charges for handbags and spa, weekends and bottles of wine that cost more than some people's cars. I did it anonymously through a shell company, because I knew if she discovered I had money, she'd never stop asking for more. I thought I was protecting her. Protecting all of them. Silent protector. That's what my therapist called it before I stopped going to therapy, because sitting in an office talking about my feelings felt like admitting defeat. I protect people who don't protect me back. I sacrifice for people who see sacrifice as weakness. My grandmother knew. She tried to tell me, sitting in the kitchen at Rosewood Cottage when I was 16, teaching me to code on her ancient desktop computer that took 5 minutes to boot up. You're worth more than their approval, Mary. I didn't believe her then. I wanted to, but I didn't. Now, standing in this hallway, with my family's laughter echoing through the door, I feel something shift. Something cold and clean and sharp. They don't misunderstand me. They despise my intelligence because it threatens their control. I turn. My footsteps make no sound on the runner as I walk back down the hallway, through the foyer, out the front door. Kalen stands beside my car, his posture military straight despite the late hour. He's been my head of security for 3 years, knows exactly who I am and what I'm worth, never told a soul. He opens the back door without a word. I slide into the leather seat. The door closes with a solid thunk that sounds like a vault ceiling. Get me the audit logs for Scott and Partners, I say. My voice sounds different, lower, colder. Tonight. Kalen's eyes meet mine in the rearview mirror. For 3 years, I've been the polite boss who says please and thank you, and apologizes when I ask him to work late. He sees something different now. Yes, boss. The engine starts. We pull away from the estate, from the people inside who think I'm too stupid to read fine print, too weak to understand what they're doing to me. They're wrong. And in 24 hours, they're going to realize exactly how wrong they've been. The Four Seasons suite costs $8,000 a night. I'm not staying here for the thread count. I'm here because the walls are soundproof, the internet connection runs on dedicated fiber, and nobody from my family would ever think to look for me in a hotel that requires a black card just to book a room. It's 2:30 inches the morning. 3 monitors glow blue across the mahogany desk, each one displaying a different layer of Scott and Partners' financial infrastructure. My fingers move across the keyboard without conscious thought, muscle memory, from 10,000 hours of coding, translating into commands that peel back every transaction, every wire transfer, every desperate attempt my father made to cover his losses. Aether Systems provides cybersecurity to his firm, has for 2 years. He doesn't know that. Doesn't know that every email, every financial record, every panicked message to his accountant flows through servers I control. He called me stupid. I pull up the first document. A case file from 18 months ago. Richard Scott, representing a pharmaceutical company against a class action lawsuit. The opposing counsel had documentation, witnesses, momentum. My father bet $6 million on a settlement that never came. Lost everything. Next file. Another gamble. Another loss. The pattern emerges like a fracture spreading across glass. $20 million. Gone. Not stolen. Not embezzled. Just arrogant, reckless decisions, made by a man who believed his charm could override facts. I open Sloane's financial records next. Her surgeon salary is substantial. $280,000 a year. Should be enough for anyone. Except she spends $580,000 annually. designer clothes, luxury vacations, a wine collection that costs more per bottle than I paid for my first car. She's been bleeding money for years, using credit cards like they're somehow disconnected from reality, from consequence. I find the email thread buried in her personal account. Subject line, "The Mary problem." My stomach clenches, but I open it anyway. Sloan to Richard, 3 months ago. We need to activate the family ATM before she figures out she has options. Richard's response, "She won't figure it out. She's too busy playing with computers." Sloan again. "The cottage is the play. Sentimental value. She'll do anything to keep it. We frame it as helping her. Take what we need. Move on." 3 months. They've been planning this for 3 months. I screenshot everything. Every email. Every transaction. Every lie they told themselves about who I am and what I'm worth. My phone buzzes at 3:15. Preston Vance. The only person outside my security team who knows the truth. "You should be sleeping," I say. "So should you." His voice carries that particular strain of someone who's spent the last 48 hours preparing for the biggest financial event of his career. The Ether IPO is tracking to break records. Less than 24 hours until bell. I know. Do you? He pauses. I hear him moving, probably pacing his office. Preston doesn't sit still when money is on the line. Because if you don't legally sever your finances before market open, their debt becomes your liability. California family law is not your friend here. The words hit like cold water. I knew this. Somewhere in my brain, I knew this. But hearing it stated plainly, hearing the timeline compressed into hours instead of abstract future consequences, makes it real. How bad? I ask. $20 million in debt against $2.8 billion in assets? The creditors will come for you the second your net worth goes public. They'll argue familial responsibility, shared household history. You'll spend years in litigation, even if you win. I close my eyes. The monitors paint blue shadows across my eyelids. Save them or save your empire, Preston says. You don't get both. I've been saving them my whole life. Anonymous payments, quiet fixes, problems that disappeared before they knew problems existed. And they still see me as stupid. I need a quitclaim deed, I say, for Rosewood Cottage. That's not enough. You need a full financial separation waiver. Every future claim, every potential liability. Can you bury it in the language? Page 7, paragraph 3. Make it look like standard charity paperwork. Preston goes quiet. When he speaks again, his voice has changed. That's scorched earth. That's survival. They'll sign it without reading. You know they will. I'm counting on it. Another pause. Longer this time. I can almost hear him weighing the ethics against the necessity, the familial obligation against the cold mathematics of wealth preservation. The friends and family IPO allocations. He says finally, if you include the waiver, they forfeit everything. How much? 1.5 million shares at projected opening. If we hit $84 per share, that's $126 million. If the stock performs the way I think it will. He trails off. I do the math instantly. If the stock quadruples like similar IPOs have, if Ether Systems proves what I know it can prove, the forfeiture becomes $500 million. They wanted to steal my grandmother's house for $850,000. I'm about to let them sign away $500 million. Draft it, I say. Have it ready by noon. Meredith. Preston's voice softens. He almost never uses my full name. Are you sure? I look at the monitors. At the evidence of their contempt displayed in financial transactions and casual cruelty. At the email where Sloan called me an ATM they haven't activated yet. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. We end the call. The suite falls silent except for the quiet hum of electronics and my own breathing. Kalen knocks once, enters without waiting for permission. He's carrying a black folder, the kind lawyers use for documents that matter. The deed? I ask. Drafted, reviewed, notarized, and ready for signature. He sets it on the desk. They don't deserve you, boss. But I look up at him. Kalen never editorializes, never offers opinions. He provides security, maintains silence, executes orders without question. No, I say. They don't. He nods once, turns to leave. Kalen? He stops. Thank you. Just doing my job, boss. But we both know that's not true. His job is protecting my body. What he's actually protecting is something else entirely. After he leaves, I open the black folder. The quitclaim deed sits on top, official and innocuous. Underneath, buried in dense legal language exactly where I specified, the waiver clause waits like a landmine. They think I'm too stupid to read fine print. They're about to learn exactly how wrong they are. The Instagram notification hits my phone at 8:04 a.m. I'm sitting in my car outside a coffee shop 3 blocks from my apartment, engine idling, watching steam rise from a paper cup I haven't touched. The screen lights up with Sloane's post. It's a photo of me at 19. Unwashed hair pulled into a messy ponytail, oversized hoodie swallowing my frame, hunched over a laptop in the corner of the campus library. Dark circles under my eyes like bruises. I remember that night. 72 hours into a coding marathon, living on vending machine coffee and the kind of obsessive focus that makes you forget meals exist. The caption reads, TBT, to little sis's lost years tinkering with code. Some of us grew up. Family love, priorities. 847 likes already. I scroll through the comments, each one a small knife sliding between ribs. When will she get a real job? Such a disappointment to the family. Richard and Sloane turned out so successful. What happened to this one? My Aunt Margaret, always quick to perform concern, praying for her to find her path. Cousin David, who borrowed $5,000 from me 2 years ago and never paid it back. Maybe it's time for an intervention? 200 comments, all of them seeing exactly what Sloane wanted them to see: the failure, the embarrassment, the family burden who never grew up. I set the phone face down on the passenger seat. My coffee has gone cold. They're softening me up, making sure I'm wounded and desperate when I walk into that library at 3 o'clock. Making sure I'm grateful for whatever scraps they offer. Even if those scraps are my own grandmother's house, the cruelty is precise. Surgical. Sloane learned it in medical school, probably. How to cut exactly deep enough to cause maximum pain without quite killing the patient. I drive to Rosewood Cottage alone. The gate is unlocked. It always is. My grandmother never believed in keeping people out, which is probably why she left the house to me instead of to my father, who would have installed security systems and cameras and motion sensors that would make Fort Knox jealous. The gravel driveway crunches under my tires. I park in the same spot I always do, beneath the oak tree my grandmother planted when she was 23 and newly married, back when the world was smaller and promises still meant something. The house looks tired. White paint peeling near the roofline. Shutters that need replacing. The front steps sag slightly in the middle from decades of footsteps. But the bones are good. Solid. The kind of construction they don't do anymore, when people built things to last instead of building them to sell. I let myself in with the key I've carried for 8 years. The one my grandmother pressed into my palm the summer before she died, closing my fingers around the brass teeth like she was passing on something more valuable than metal. This is yours, Mary. Not your father's. Not Sloane's. Yours. Don't forget that. I didn't understand then. I thought she meant the key. Now I know she meant the belonging. Inside, the air smells like dust and old wood and the ghost of her lavender perfume. I run my hand along the banister, feeling the grain beneath my palm. Smooth in some places, rough in others. Honest wear from honest use. Her needlepoint still hangs in the hallway. A quote from Virginia Woolf. A woman must have money and a room of her own. She stitched that when she was 67. After my grandfather died and left her financially independent for the first time in her life, she hung it in the entryway like a declaration of war against anyone who thought widows should be grateful and quiet. I walk through the room slowly. Kitchen with its yellow tiles and the chip in the counter where I dropped a cast iron skillet when I was 12. Living room with the fireplace that actually works, unlike the decorative gas logs at my father's estate. The reading chair by the window, cracked leather that molded to her body over 40 years of books and afternoon light. I sit in that chair now. The photo albums are still on the side table. I don't open them. I know what's inside. My grandmother and me, hundreds of pictures spanning 18 years. Her teaching me to garden, to cook, to code on that ancient desktop computer she bought at a yard sale because she believed technology was power and girls needed power. Not a single photo includes my father or Sloane, unless it's a formal family portrait where everyone's smiling and lying. She knew. Even then, she knew. I was always the giver. The one who showed up with groceries when she had the flu, who fixed her computer when it crashed, who sat with her during her last month when the hospice nurse said she had days left and everyone else had better things to do. Sloane came twice. My father didn't come at all. And when she died, they cried at the funeral. Loud, performative grief that made the other mourners pat their shoulders and murmur condolences. They wore black and dabbed at dry eyes and accepted sympathy like they'd lost something irreplaceable. Then they tried to sell her house 3 months later. I pull out my phone. Sloane's post has crossed 1,000 likes now. The comments have multiplied. My phone buzzes with texts from distant relatives I haven't heard from in years, all of them concerned, all of them CCing my father like I'm a problem that needs managing. The cruelty was designed. Calculated. They want me desperate and ashamed when I sign those papers at 3 o'clock. They want me so grateful for their attention that I don't ask questions. My grandmother's voice echoes in my head, clear as if she's sitting across from me. The house is wood and stone, Mary. Your dignity is what matters. I hear gravel crunch outside. Footsteps on the porch. The door opens without knocking. Kalen fills the doorway, a black folder in his hands. He's wearing his standard uniform. Dark suit, no tie, expression that gives away nothing. But his eyes are different today. Softer. Almost apologetic. The final documents, boss. He sets the folder on the side table. Everything's ready. I don't open it. I know what's inside. The quitclaim deed. The waiver. The trap that looks like surrender. He doesn't leave. Just stands there, hands clasped behind his back, looking at the needlepoint on the wall. They don't deserve you. His voice is rough, unused to emotion. Your grandmother would be proud of what you've built. Something in my chest loosens. Not much, just enough to breathe. Thank you. He nods once and leaves. The door clicks shut behind him. My phone buzzes. Preston's name lights up the screen. IPO opens at $84 per share. You're about to become a billionaire. Ready? I type back with steady fingers. More ready than they'll ever know. 2 o'clock arrives faster than it should. I stand in my apartment bathroom, staring at the black suit hanging on the back of the door. Tom Ford, tailored to fit like armor. I bought it 6 months ago for board meetings with investors who needed to believe a 26-year-old woman could run a company worth billions. Today, I'm wearing it to a family party. I dress slowly, each piece deliberate. The suit, the white silk blouse beneath it, the Patek Philippe watch that cost more than my father's car. My reflection stares back. Stranger and familiar. The woman my grandmother always knew I'd become. 2:47 p.m. 1 hour before market close. I get into the town car. Kalen drives without asking where we're going. He knows. I text Preston. The bait is ready. Let them take it. His response is immediate. They won't know what hit them. The car pulls away from my apartment building. I don't look back. Don't need to. That life ends today. I'm not going to a party. I'm going to a negotiation. And they wanted to see me sign my life away. They'll get their wish. Just not the way they expect. The library smells like leather and lies. Old money and older secrets. I used to love this room when I was a kid. Back when I thought the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves meant my father valued knowledge. Now I know they're just expensive wallpaper. Half those books have never been opened. Richard sits behind the mahogany desk like a king granting audience. His personal attorney stands beside him, some gray suit with a forgettable face and a very memorable hourly rate. Bryce leans against the bookshelf to my left, arms crossed, that smug little smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The smile that says he's already counting his commission. It's 3 o'clock. 1 hour until market close. The door opens behind me. Sloane's perfume arrives 5 seconds before she does. Something French and floral and suffocating. She sweeps past me without acknowledgement, taking her position at Richard's right hand like she's been doing since we were children, the favored daughter. The one who became a surgeon, who married well, who posts perfectly filtered photos of her perfectly curated life. Thank you for coming, Meredith. Richard's voice carries that particular tone. The one that sounds warm but isn't. The one he uses on clients right before he explains why their case is hopeless. I know this is short notice. You said it was important. I keep my voice soft, uncertain. The way I used to sound at 19 when I desperately wanted him to notice me, to see me, to value anything I did. It is. He gestures to the chair across from him. Please. Sit. I sit. Fold my hands in my lap. Let my shoulders curve inward just slightly. The body language of someone who's never learned to take up space. The attorney slides a document across the desk. Heavy bond paper. At least 20 pages. The title is printed in bold. Trust Fund, Release, and Property Transfer. My heart doesn't race. My hands don't sweat. But I make sure they think they do. We've been discussing your future, Richard begins. He actually sounds paternal. Concerned. Like he's about to do me a favor instead of rob me blind. You're 26 years old. Still trying to find your path. That's admirable, sweetheart. But it's time we helped you get started. Started with what? I let my voice crack just a little. Just enough. With your life. Sloane's tone could cut glass. We're releasing $50,000 from the family trust. Seed money for your little computer hobby. Little computer hobby. The words sit in my chest like stones. Aether Systems employs 217 people. We provide cybersecurity infrastructure for 70% of the Fortune 500. Our quarterly revenue exceeds what their law firm makes in 2 years. But I don't say any of that. Instead, I pick up the document with trembling fingers. Real trembling this time, not from fear but from the sheer effort of not laughing in their faces. I scan the first page. Standard trust release language. Page 2 outlines the $50,000 payment, makes it sound generous, necessary, overdue. By page 3, we're into property transfer clauses. By page 7, paragraph 3, they're taking everything. Rosewood Cottage. My grandmother's house. The only place I ever felt safe. They're transferring the deed to cover outstanding family obligations. $20 million in gambling debts, disguised as legal fees for bad cases, Richard took because he thought he was smarter than everyone else in the courtroom. He wasn't. The cottage appraises at $850,000. They're trading my inheritance for 4% of what they owe, and they think I won't notice because I'm too stupid to read past the money part. This is very generous. The attorney speaks for the first time. His voice has the practiced neutrality of someone who's witnessed a lot of terrible things and cashed a lot of checks anyway. Given your situation, Miss Scott, I'd say your family is being extraordinarily accommodating. My situation. Like I'm the problem. Like I'm the one who gambled away millions and dragged everyone else down with me. I don't understand. I look up at Richard. Let my eyes get wet. Not crying, just on the edge of it. Why the cottage? That's Grandma's house. Was her house? Sloane's already bored with this conversation. Her phone sits on the desk in front of her, Instagram open. Ready to document my breakdown for 15,000 followers. She's been dead for 3 years, Mary. You can't even afford the property taxes. But I could figure something out. My voice goes higher, desperate. Please, Dad. It's all I have. You'll have $50,000. Richard checks his Rolex. 3:17. He's getting impatient. That's more than most people your age have managed to save. You should be grateful. Grateful. The word tastes like poison. Can't we find another way? I'm pleading now. Full performance. I could get a job. A real job. I could help pay off the debts myself. Bryce actually laughs. Doing what, Meredith? You've been coding in your apartment for 6 years. No publications, no portfolio anyone's seen, no professional network. The market's brutal right now. You'd be lucky to land an entry-level position. It's better this way. Sloane doesn't even look up from her phone. You can't afford the upkeep anyway. No real income. And honestly, living in the past isn't healthy. You need to move forward. I found a buyer who'll preserve it, Bryce adds. You should be grateful someone wants it at all in this market. The attorney taps the signature line on page 19. Miss Scott, I have another appointment at 4. If we could finalize this now. Richard leans forward. His expression shifts. Not paternal anymore. Just cold. Sign it or get nothing. We're done coddling you, Meredith. It's time you learned how the real world works. The clock on the wall reads 3:42. 18 minutes until market close. Sign. The document. Richard bites off each word. I reach for the pen, allowing my hand to tremble visibly. But before the tip touches the paper, I stop. I want a copy, I whisper. For my records. Grandma always said to keep records. Richard rolls his eyes. For God's sake! It's standard procedure, Mr. Scott. The attorney murmurs, pulling a duplicate set from his briefcase. Actually, it's better for enforcement if we have duplicate originals, both parties holding an executed copy. He slides the second set across the mahogany. I sign the first one, then the second. My handwriting looks broken, uncertain on both. Richard signs. The attorney notarizes both stacks with efficient, heavy thunks of his stamp. Happy? Richard snatches his copy before the ink dries. Doesn't read past page 2. Never even glances at page 7. I pull my copy toward me, folding it slowly, clutching it to my chest like a security blanket. Thank you, Daddy. Excellent. Richard stands. I'm glad we could resolve this efficiently. The funds will be transferred to your account by end of week. They leave. All of them. Sloane already typing something on her phone, probably a post about difficult family members and tough love. Bryce shoots me one last pitying look, before following them out. The attorney packs his briefcase without a word. The door closes. Silence. I count to 10, then 20, making absolutely sure they're gone. The tears vanish. Just gone, like turning off a faucet. I check my Patek Philippe. 3:47, 13 minutes to close. Checkmate, I whisper to the empty room. I stand and smooth my jacket, checking that the duplicate original is secure in the inner pocket. The document includes complete waiver of all future familial financial claims, including but not limited to friends and family stock allocations, inheritance expectations, and corporate benefits. They just signed away $504 million for $50,000 and a cottage worth $850,000. I walk to the French doors that open onto the terrace. Outside, the garden party is already starting. I can hear the string quartet tuning up. I'm not leaving. Not yet. 11 minutes until they realize what they've done. 11 minutes until everything changes. The champagne tastes like victory. At least, that's what Richard thinks as he raises his glass at the podium, surveying 200 guests, scattered across the manicured lawn of the Scott estate. String quartet, uniformed servers, flower arrangements that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I stand near the back, black suit, sharp as a blade, watching him perform. To family legacy, he announces, voice carrying across the garden with practiced authority. To the businesses that define excellence in our community. Take Ether Systems, for example, remarkable cybersecurity firm. Their IPO today represents everything American enterprise should aspire to. Innovation, discipline, vision. Sloane stands beside him, phone held high. Instagram livestream. 15,000 viewers watching her father pontificate about success while she angles for the perfect shot. Her smile is luminous. She thinks she's won. Unlike some hobbies, Richard continues, and I feel the shift coming before he makes it. Not everyone understands the difference between serious business and playing with computers in a basement, but that's fine. The world needs all types. Ev. Polite laughter ripples through the crowd. Several guests glance my direction. I don't flinch. 4 p.m. exactly. The closing bell rings somewhere in Manhattan, and the universe tilts on its axis. Bloomberg terminals throughout the party erupt simultaneously. Sharp electronic chimes, guests' phones buzzing in pockets, clutches, jacket linings. The string quartet falters mid-phrase as musicians check their devices. What the hell? Someone mutters near the bar. The murmurs start low, building like a wave gathering strength. AET up 400%? Ether Systems IPO closed at $336 per share? That's impossible. The opening was $84. Richard keeps talking, oblivious. Still mid-sentence about family values and business acumen. Still performing for an audience that's no longer listening. Preston Vance steps forward from the crowd. Tailored gray suit. SEC S1 filing printed and bound in his hands like scripture. He moves with the quiet confidence of someone who's closed billion-dollar deals before breakfast. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice cuts through Richard's speech without raising in volume. I apologize for the interruption, but I believe some clarification is needed. Richard stops, confused, annoyed. Preston, this isn't the time. I'd like to introduce the founder and CEO of Ether Systems. Preston turns, extends his hand toward me. M.J. Scott, who's been operating under her initials for privacy. Silence crashes over the garden like a physical force. 200 faces turn toward me, Mouths open, eyes wide. The kind of stunned recognition that happens when reality rewrites itself in real time. Richard's face drains of color. All that expensive, scotch-fueled confidence evaporating as his brain catches up to what his ears just heard. J. Someone whispers. Meredith, Jane. I don't move. Don't speak. Let them process. Sloane's phone drops 3 inches before she catches it. The live stream wobbles, captures her expression perfectly. Mathematical horror beginning its slow crawl across her features. Richard recovers first. Of course he does. Decades of courtroom performance taught him how to pivot when the case turns against him. My daughter? He rushes toward me, arms spread wide for an embrace. I always believed in her vision. I always knew. I step back. One clean movement. His arms close on empty air. He freezes, recalculates, pivots again. Turns to Preston. The friends and family IPO allocations. We should discuss those. I'm sure Meredith has reserved shares for her family. Haven't you, sweetheart? Sloane's fingers fly across her phone screen. I can see the calculation happening in real time. $336 per share, multiplied by whatever allocation she thinks she deserves. Her eyes glaze with the kind of greed that makes people stupid. Bryce Sterling stands near the fountain, frozen, his investment banking brain doing the math differently. His commission on the cottage sale, pocket change, nothing. Less than nothing compared to what he just realized he lost. I reach into my jacket, pull out the document I folded and tucked away in the library 13 minutes ago. The duplicate original. About those allocations, Father. My voice carries, calm, clear, the voice I use in board meetings when I'm about to fire someone who thought they were indispensable. The garden goes silent again. Even the string quartet stops pretending to play. There's a clause in the document you signed, page 7, paragraph 3. Would you like me to read it, or would you prefer to read it yourself? Richard's face shifts, confusion to concern to dawning comprehension. What document? The one you witnessed at 3:47 p.m., the trust fund release and property transfer. The one you were so eager to have me sign that you didn't read past page 2. I unfold the paper. Hold it up so the guests closest can see the notary seal. The witness signatures. Richard's own attorney's stamp at the bottom. Complete waiver of all future familial financial claims. I read aloud. Each word landing like a hammer blow, including but not limited to friends and family stock allocations, inheritance expectations, and corporate benefits. Sloane's phone clatters to the flagstone. Doesn't shatter. Just lies there, live stream still running, capturing her face as understanding destroys her from the inside out. Preston steps forward again. Numbers man. Always has the data ready. The friends and family allocation was 1.5 million shares. At the closing price of $336 per share, that's $504 million. Someone gasps. Multiple someones. The math is too big, too devastating, too perfectly brutal to process quietly. You forced them to sign it away, Preston continues, looking at Richard, for $50,000 and a cottage appraised at $850,000. Richard's mouth opens, closes, opens again. No sound emerges, his lawyer brain trying desperately to find the loophole, the out, the appeal. There isn't one. He witnessed the signature himself. Their greed, I say quietly, cost them $500 million. Sloane makes a sound. Not quite a sob, not quite a scream. Something between the two that belongs to someone watching their entire future collapse in real time. I turn to Richard. Make sure every witness hears what comes next. Aether Systems is also raising Scott and Partners' cybersecurity premiums by 20%, effective immediately. Consider it professional risk assessment based on high-risk client status. 140 witnesses, including his law partners, including the judges he plays golf with, including everyone who matters in his professional world. Sloane's Instagram livestream captured everything. 15,000 viewers watched her face register mathematical horror, watched her father try to claim credit for success he'd mocked, watched the family that called me stupid lose $500 million because they couldn't read 7 pages of legal documents. Bryce's investment banking reputation just died. Association alone will kill him in this industry. Nobody trusts a banker who can't spot a trap that obvious. I fold the document, slide it back into my jacket, turn toward the exit. Enjoy the party, I say over my shoulder. It's the last thing I'm paying for. Kaylin waits by the car, opens the door without a word. I slide into the leather seat. The door closes with a sound like a vault ceiling. Behind me, the garden erupts in whispers. Phones out. Messages flying. The story spreading like wildfire through networks that will carry it to every corner of their professional lives. The car pulls away from the estate. Away from the people inside who thought I was too stupid to read fine print. They were wrong. And now everyone knows exactly how wrong they've been. 3 days later, the Wall Street Journal sits folded on the leather seat beside me. I don't need to open it again. The headline is burned into my vision. Mystery CEO M.J. Scott, revealed as 6-year-old tech prodigy. Forbes put my net worth at $2.8 billion. They're conservative. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Interview requests from Bloomberg, CNBC, TechCrunch. Acquisition offers that start with 9 figures. Investor meetings that would have made my father weep if he understood what they meant. He doesn't. He never will. The SUV glides through morning traffic at 8 a.m. Kaylin silent behind the wheel. My first board meeting as publicly known CEO starts in 90 minutes. 3 acquisition targets on the agenda. Expansion plans that will double our cybersecurity footprint within 18 months. But first, there's other business to handle. My phone vibrates. Email notification from Willow Holdings LLC, the shell company I established 6 months ago when I first suspected my family might try something desperate. Subject line, property transfer complete. Rosewood Cottage is mine. The bank was happy to sell the mortgage note holding the cottage as collateral, a clean transaction, cash for debt. Since Richard's ownership was contingent on the contract he violated, I am now the creditor holding the keys. I tap open the attached property inspection report. Richard and Sloan have been using my grandmother's house for storage. Valuable antiques, they claimed when they moved their things in last spring. The inspector's photos tell a different story. Reproduction furniture from discount warehouses. Costume jewelry in fake Tiffany boxes. A collection of paintings that might fool someone who shops at hotel liquidation sales. They plan to have it all appraised fraudulently. Insurance fraud, most likely. Another scheme, another shortcut, another crime. They thought I was too stupid to notice. I attached the digital eviction notice to my response email. 30 days to remove their belongings. Standard legal language. Professional. Cold. Send. My father's attorney calls 6 minutes later. I let it go to voicemail. Listen while I watch the city roll past my window. Threats of litigation. Accusations of elder abuse, of theft, of manipulating a confused old man who only wanted to help his daughter. I save the voicemail. Evidence. Always evidence. Review the quitclaim deed. I text back. You witnessed the signature. Everything is legal. Everything is documented. This conversation is over. Block number. Sloane's voicemail comes through next. I play the first 3 seconds. Rage, tears, something about betrayal and family, and how could I do this to them after everything they've done for me? Delete. Don't need to hear the rest. Bryce texts. Can we talk? Block. Delete. Gone. The family group chat sits at the top of my messages. 17 unread texts since last night. Richard, trying to explain, to justify, to manipulate. Sloane demanding I fix this, that I apologize, that I remember who raised me. Distant cousins and aunts chiming in with their opinions about my responsibilities and my selfishness and my ungrateful nature. I delete the entire thread without reading past the previews. Then I change my phone number. The process takes 4 minutes. Preston gets the new one. Kaylin already has it. My executive team will receive it this morning with strict instructions about privacy protocols. Everyone else can figure out how to contact me through official channels, if they're worth my time. The board meeting agenda glows on my tablet screen. Expansion into 3 new markets. Acquisition targets that will solidify our position as the dominant cybersecurity provider for financial institutions. Revenue projections that made our CFO double-check his calculations. I'm ready. More than ready. The SUV pulls up to Ether Systems headquarters at 8:47 a.m. Modern glass and steel, 5 stories. Our name in brushed metal letters that catch the morning sun. I had them installed last week while the IPO was still pending. No more hiding. Through the glass walls, I can see the lobby. 200 employees gathered, waiting. Someone must have sent a message that I was arriving. Kaylin opens my door. The cool morning air carries the scent of success and coffee and something new. something that belongs entirely to me. They start clapping before I'm through the entrance. A standing ovation that echoes off the marble floors and high ceilings. My people, my team, the family I chose instead of the one I was born into. Preston appears at my elbow, immaculate in his suit, eyes bright with something that might be pride. Ready, MJ? I look at the faces watching me. Young engineers who bet their careers on my vision, executives who left prestigious positions to build something real. Security specialists who understand that protection means more than just code. I've been ready my whole life, I tell him. They just couldn't see it. We walk through the applause, through the lobby, toward the executive elevators that will take me to the boardroom where I belong. The past stays behind me where it belongs. The future is mine. I slow my car to a crawl as I approach my parents' Buckhead driveway, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel. 6 months. It's been 6 months since I last subjected myself to this particular form of torture. The brick colonial looks exactly the same, immaculate landscaping, pristine shutters, and that overwhelming sense of judgment radiating from every window. Taking a deep breath, I park behind my father's Mercedes and check my reflection in the rearview mirror. Perfect makeup, not a hair out of place. The armor is secure. Inside, the foyer smells of furniture polish and my mother's expensive perfume. I follow the sounds of bustling activity to the dining room, where Eleanor Walker fusses over the placement of sterling silver serving spoons. "Celeste, you're here," she says, glancing up briefly. Not a hug, not even a proper greeting. Just acknowledgement of my existence. "Would you put the water glasses out? Your father's almost done with the brisket." I nod and move toward the china cabinet, taking in the room as I do. Family photos line the walnut sideboard, mostly Preston in various poses of achievement. Preston at Harvard graduation. Preston receiving some finance award. Preston shaking hands with the mayor. There's exactly one photo of me, tucked in the corner, from high school graduation. Dad appears from the kitchen, carving knife in hand, his face flushed with pride. "Sunday brisket's almost ready," he announces, not directly addressing me. He's wearing his Kiss the Cook apron, a Father's Day gift from Preston years ago. "Smells wonderful." I lie. Arthur Walker's brisket is notoriously dry, a family tradition no one dares mention. Mom circles the table a third time, adjusting the napkins. Preston should be here any minute. He texted that he's running a bit late, something about a call with Tokyo. Of course. Preston is allowed to be late. The Golden Boy's time is valuable. As if summoned by his name, the front door swings open, and Preston's booming voice fills the house. "Hello, family." He strides into the dining room wearing a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my first month's rent. Even on Sunday, he dresses like he's heading to a board meeting. Mom's face lights up. There he is. She rushes to hug him while Dad claps him on the shoulder. "Sorry I'm late," Preston says, loosening his tie. "Had to wrap up some details on that Kensington acquisition." Dad beams. "That's my boy. Always closing deals." We settle around the table, Dad at the head, Mom to his right, Preston to his left, and me facing an empty wall. Dad attacks his brisket with the carving knife, while Mom passes dishes with the precision of someone who's hosted 1,000 Sunday dinners. "So, Preston," Dad says, serving him the best cut. "How's life treating Atlanta's financial wonderkind?" Preston laughs, accepting the plate with a nod. "Can't complain. Just closed another round of funding. 8 figures. He takes a bite of brisket, chewing thoughtfully. "Actually, I've been looking at some real estate." Mom perks up. "Oh? Where?" "West Paces. There's a modern place just listed 5.2 million. Floor-to-ceiling windows, floating staircase, the works." He gestures with his fork. "Perfect bachelor pad." Dad whistles low. "That's prime territory. I've got a viewing on Tuesday." Preston cuts into his meat. "Should be able to make an offer by the end of the week." Mom and Dad exchange proud glances. I push food around my plate, the dry brisket sticking in my throat. "How about you, Celeste?" Mom asks, almost as an afterthought. "How's that little online shop of yours?" I take a sip of water. "Actually, I've been house hunting too." The silence lasts exactly 2 seconds before all 3 of them burst into laughter. "Good one, sis," Preston says, wiping his mouth with a napkin. Dad's face shifts from amusement to concern. "Your little online store is cute, Celeste, but it's a hobby. Time for a real job." "Arthur," Mom murmurs, but there's no real protest in her voice. Preston leans back in his chair, the smug smirk I've known my entire life firmly in place. Stick to your trinkets, sis. Leave the big moves to the adults. I say nothing, my face carefully blank. In fact, Preston continues, reaching for his wine, I'm looking at pouring capital into a new e-commerce player, Modern Hearth. That's the future. They're going to crush all the little hobby stores. The memory hits without warning me at 20, clutching a 5-page business plan I'd spent weeks perfecting, standing nervously in Dad's study. What do you think? I'd asked, hope ballooning in my chest. Dad had skimmed it for 30 seconds before patting my head. Cute, sweetheart. Meanwhile, Preston just landed Goldman Sachs. That night, I'd made a silent vow, never to share my dreams with them again. What followed were years of cold garage nights at 2 a.m., packing boxes myself. The crushing blow of losing my $50,000 life savings to a supplier who disappeared overnight, working 3 separate jobs to rebuild while maintaining the fiction that my business was just a cute side project. Back in the present, Mom pushes a store-bought pecan pie toward me. Have some dessert, dear. You're looking thin. I smile, the shield I built years ago firmly in place. The smile doesn't reach my eyes, but they never notice. They never do. If they only knew that the perennial house cleared $35 million last year, that the trinkets, Preston mocks, are featured in design magazines and celebrity homes, that my hobby employs 47 people who actually respect me. I should get going, I say, standing up. Work tomorrow. Preston snorts. Playing store. Meanwhile, we'll be talking real business. Mom follows me to the door, pressing a foil-wrapped package into my hands. Leftovers, since you probably don't cook much. 2. I accept them with the same practiced smile, say the expected pleasantries, and escape to my car. My hands tremble slightly on the steering wheel as I pull away from their house. For the first time in years, something inside me shifts, a clarity I haven't allowed myself before. Enough, I whisper to the empty car. I reach for my phone and dial Reese. How was family dinner? His familiar voice asks. No preamble needed. Preston wants to buy a house on West Paces. 5.2 million. Reese is silent for a moment. And? I want it. The words taste like freedom. The house? Yes. And everything else they think I can't have. I can hear his smile through the phone. It's about time. It's time they learned what trinkets can build, I say, ending the call as the road ahead opens up before me. The perennial house headquarters doesn't look like a hobby business. It looks like success. On Monday morning, Reese Thornton stands at the floor-to-ceiling windows of Celeste's downtown Atlanta office, surveying the empire she's built. Modern white furniture contrasts with vibrant accent pieces from their latest collection. Elegant home goods, candles, vases, throw pillows are artfully displayed on floating shelves, each item a silent rebuke to anyone who ever called them trinkets. He turns back to his desk where quarterly reports tell the real story. Consistent growth, profit margins that would make Preston weep, and projections that point skyward. 8 figures. Not a hobby. An empire. The wall behind Reese's desk showcases what Celeste never showed her family, framed magazine covers featuring the perennial house products, industry awards, and press clippings. Home Entrepreneur of the Year, 30 under 30, Retail Disruptors, the future of home goods. The elevator doors slide open, and Celeste walks in, still dressed in the outfit from dinner. Her expression has hardened from the careful neutrality she wore at her parents' table to something sharper, more focused. How bad was it? Reese asks, though he already knows. Preston's buying a house on West Paces, 5.2 million. She drops her purse on a nearby chair. They laughed when I said I was house hunting too. Of course they did. Reese has never met the Walkers, but he's heard enough over the years to despise them. A staffer approaches with fabric swatches, hesitates when she sees Celeste's expression, then continues forward anyway. Sorry to interrupt, but the Milan samples just arrived. I thought you'd want to see them right away. Celeste's demeanor softens. Thank you, Amber. She takes the swatches, runs her fingers over them approvingly. These are perfect for spring. Schedule a meeting with production tomorrow. Amber nods and leaves. The brief interaction speaks volumes: respect, not condescension. Trust, not doubt. 5 years, Reese says, returning to their conversation. 5 years we've been building this, and they still think you're playing store. Celeste walks to the windows, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. You know what kills me? Preston mentioned investing in Modern Hearth. Our biggest competitor. Reese winces. That's... Exactly. Celeste turns to face him. He's trying to crush my business without even knowing it's mine. Reese remembers when he first met Celeste. He was a jaded consultant. She was a determined woman with a vision. When she offered him the COO position, everyone told him he was crazy to leave his 6-figure salary for a startup. Everyone except Celeste. The house on West Paces, Reese says slowly. You want it. I can afford it. She states this as fact, not boast. Easily. Reese leans against his desk. But what happens when they find out? When Preston realizes his little sister outbid him? Celeste walks to the far wall where their company vision board displays their 5-year plan. Her fingers trace over the projected growth charts, the planned product lines, the international expansion targets. I've spent years protecting their feelings, Reese. I'm done. Reese watches her, noticing the shift. This isn't the hurt daughter from dinner. This is the CEO who built an 8-figure business from nothing. The woman who lost her life savings to a scammer and clawed her way back without complaint. This isn't about revenge. She continues, her voice steady. It's about recognizing my own worth. By hiding my success, I've been enabling their dismissal. You don't owe them anything, Reese reminds her. No, but I owe myself this. She turns, clarity replacing confusion in her eyes. If Preston wants that house as a symbol of success, let him find another symbol. This one's mine. Reese nods, already reaching for his laptop. Let me pull up the listing. Hours later, they're still in the conference room. Coffee cups litter the table. Reese has his sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, as he scrolls through property details. Good news, he announces. It hasn't gone to contract yet, and the selling agent is Mary Holbrook we donated to her charity auction last year. I can get us a viewing tomorrow. Celeste studies the architectural renderings on screen. Modern lines, walls of glass, floating staircase. Everything Preston described at dinner. The 5.2 million Modern on West Paces, she says, each word deliberate. The one Preston wants. Buy it, all cash. Reese grins, the excitement of battle in his eyes. It's time, Celeste. Let's show them what trinkets can build. They spend another hour planning the details. The purchase will be through a LLC to keep her name off public records. The closing will be expedited. They'll submit paperwork before Preston can make his offer. For a moment, as Reese outlines the strategy, doubt flickers across Celeste's face. This will change everything with my family. Maybe that's overdue, Reese says gently. Celeste nods, the doubt replaced by determination. She signs the preliminary offer letter, officially putting her real worth on paper. Submit it first thing tomorrow, she instructs, standing to leave. Reese watches her go, pride mixing with concern. The Walkers have no idea what's coming, but neither, perhaps, does Celeste. A week later, the realtor's heels click against marble as she leads us through the empty mansion, her voice echoing in spaces that will soon be mine. Reese walks beside me, his whispered commentary making me smile despite the weight of what we're doing. All-cash offer was brilliant, he says, nodding appreciatively at the floating staircase that seems to defy gravity. They accepted within hours. Your brother never stood a chance. I run my fingertips along cool marble countertops in a kitchen that could host a small army. It wasn't even a competition. Preston waits for bank approvals and family connections. I just wrote a check. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating everything Preston wanted but couldn't have. $5.2 million of modern architecture with views of the Atlanta skyline that take my breath away. Not that I'd ever admit it aloud. The sellers were practically giddy. Reese continues, testing the premium appliances with the curiosity of a child. Said they'd never seen an offer come together so fast. No contingencies, no inspection period. I moved toward the enormous windows. The city sprawled before me like something I could reach out and touch. Did they mention other offers? Just one. Reese grins. Some finance guy who needed to secure funding. Preston's face flashes in my mind how he'll look when he discovers someone bought his dream house right from under him. The thought warms me more than it should. We ascend the floating staircase, each step feeling like a victory. The master bedroom spans the entire east wing, with windows on 3 sides and a bathroom bigger than my first apartment. "This is where you'll sleep," Reese says, his voice softer now. "Your kingdom." I stand in the center of the empty room, allowing myself to imagine for the first time. My furniture here, my art on these walls. My life, visible and undeniable. "You know what would be poetic?" Reese leans against the doorframe, eyes gleaming with mischief. "A housewarming party." "A party?" I turn toward him, the idea taking root. "Not just any party. The reveal party." He gestures expansively. "Invite everyone who matters in Atlanta, including your family. Let them walk through these halls admiring everything before they discover who actually owns it." I picture Eleanor touching the expensive fixtures, Arthur commenting on the craftsmanship, Preston calculating square footage and property values, all without knowing. The perfect ambush. "That's deliciously evil," I say, a smile spreading across my face. I love it. The next 3 weeks pass in a blur of activity. Interior designers swarm through the house like efficient ants, transforming empty spaces into something uniquely mine. I oversee every decision: the exact shade of gray for the living room walls, the specific texture of rugs beneath bare feet, lighting fixtures that cast the perfect glow. "These pieces from your spring collection should be featured prominently," I tell the lead designer, pointing to items from the perennial house that have graced magazine covers. "I want them everywhere." She nods, making notes. "They'll be conversation pieces, for sure." Between design consultations, I make an obligatory appearance at my parents' house for coffee. Eleanor has been calling more frequently, worried about my absence from family gatherings. As I slip through the kitchen toward the powder room, I overhear Preston's agitated voice from Arthur's study. Some anonymous buyer with cash swooped in and took it. His frustration vibrates through the closed door. The West Pace's house. My house. Gone before I could even get the bank paperwork started. "You'll find something better, dear." Eleanor soothes, her perpetual role as Preston's emotional bandage fully engaged. "I've had my eye on that property for months," he continues, voice rising. "It was perfect." Arthur's deeper tone interjects with typical fatherly authority. "I'll call my banker friends. We'll get you priority on the next listing. Something will come up." I slip away unnoticed. Information gathered. Satisfaction warming my chest. They have no idea what's coming. The invitations go out a week later, heavy cream cardstock in minimalist envelopes. New West Pace's residence, housewarming, with the date, time, and address, but no host name. Reese and I review the guest list together, ensuring we've included every important connection in Atlanta's business community alongside my unsuspecting family. My phone rings the next day with Eleanor's number. "Celeste, did you get one too?" she asks immediately after I answer. "An invitation to a housewarming on West Pace's? Must be Preston's new colleague or something." I suppress a laugh. "Yes, I received one. Looks interesting." "Oh, you should come. It'll be good for you to network with Preston's crowd." Her voice carries that familiar tone, the one that suggests I need help connecting with the right people. "I'll be there," I assure her, choosing words carefully. "You should come too." We've already RSVP'd. Preston thinks it's someone from that tech company that just opened offices downtown. Good chance to make connections. When I hang up, Reese raises an eyebrow. "They took the bait?" Hook, line, and sinker. Preston thinks it's a networking opportunity. As the night of the party arrives, I stand in my new bedroom, examining my reflection. The black dress cost more than most people's monthly salary, but tonight calls for armor of the highest quality. My hair falls in soft waves, makeup perfect but understated. I look successful, powerful, untouchable. Outside, the house glows with strategic lighting that highlights its modern lines. Inside, caterers arrange exquisite food on elegant platters. Every surface gleams, every detail perfect. Reese arrives first, looking sharp in his tailored suit. He whistles low as he takes in the completed transformation. "It's magnificent," he says, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing server. "Better than you described." We stand together at the bottom of the floating staircase, sharing a moment of solidarity before the performance begins. He raises his glass in a private toast, to the woman who built an empire while they weren't looking. I touch my glass to his, throat tight with emotion I rarely allow myself to feel. Tonight isn't about approval, it's about truth. The doorbell rings, and the first guests arrive, business acquaintances and local influencers who exclaim over the house while trying to figure out who their host might be. I move among them anonymously, letting them assume I'm just another guest. An hour later, I spot them through the crowd. Arthur entering first, followed by Eleanor clutching her designer handbag, and Preston scanning the room with the calculated gaze of someone assessing property values and net worths simultaneously. Whose house do you think this is? Eleanor asks loudly enough for me to overhear as she accepts a glass of champagne. Has to be tech money? Preston replies, running his hand along a marble countertop. Or old Atlanta wealth. Place must have cost a fortune. They wander through the ground floor, commenting on the furnishings, the architecture, the view. I follow at a distance, watching as Eleanor stops before a distinctive vase displayed prominently on a console table. This looks like one of those things from Celeste's website, she says, bending closer to examine it. Preston scoffs, barely glancing at it. Probably a knockoff. Real quality here. The moment has arrived. I slip away, ascending the floating staircase unseen until I reach the top. From this vantage point, I can see my entire party spread below. Reese catches my eye from across the room and raises his glass slightly, our signal. He taps his glass with a spoon, the crystal chime cutting through conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, he calls out. I believe our host would like to say a few words. All eyes turn upward, finding me at the top of the staircase. The room falls silent as I stand above them, powerful in my elevation. I spot my family immediately. Arthur's confusion, Eleanor's surprise, Preston's narrowed eyes as he tries to understand why I'm speaking. Welcome, everyone. I begin, my voice steady and clear. My family in particular was always worried about my future. They thought my hobby couldn't possibly pay the bills. So I'm glad they're here to see what that hobby bought. Welcome to my house. Absolute silence follows. In the hush, I hear the distinct sound of Preston's phone clattering to the marble floor. Arthur's face drains of color, while Eleanor's mouth opens and closes without producing sound. Around them, other guests murmur in admiration, raising glasses in my direction. Across the room, Reese beams with undisguised pride. But it's the expressions on my family's faces that I'll remember forever the moment they finally see me standing in my truth, $5.2 million of undeniable success beneath my feet. For the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for their approval. I'm simply showing them who I've always been, and it feels like freedom. The stunned silence that followed my announcement lasted precisely 5 seconds before a nervous laugh erupted from somewhere in the crowd. I remained at the top of the floating staircase, watching the party guests shift uncomfortably as they glanced between my family and me. My mother recovered first, her social training kicking in. Celeste, stop joking. Eleanor's voice carried a forced lightness that fooled no one. Whose house is this really? I descended 3 steps, maintaining the higher ground. Mine, mother. Every square inch. Arthur pushed through the gathering crowd, his face flushed beneath his silver hair. He grabbed my elbow, pulling me aside while maintaining a strained smile for the benefit of onlookers. What the hell do you think you're doing? He hissed, voice low but sharp as a blade. Is this some kind of sick joke? I disengaged my arm from his grip with a subtle twist. No joke, no games, just fact. Behind him, Preston stood frozen, his expression cycling through emotions like a slot machine. Shock, disbelief, and finally, calculation. The wheels were turning behind those eyes, reassessing everything he thought he knew about his little sister. Around us, the party continued its awkward momentum. Servers circulated with champagne. Conversations resumed in hushed tones. The chamber quartet I'd hired played on, their strings filling the uncomfortable silence. 5.2 million. I announced, just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Paid in cash, from my hobby. A woman I recognized from a design magazine approached, champagne flute extended toward me. Celeste, this place is spectacular. I had no idea the perennial house was doing so well. We featured your autumn collection last issue. Arthur's face drained of color. Eleanor clutched her pearls. Thank you, I replied, accepting the toast. It's been quite a year. Other guests drifted over, offering congratulations, asking questions about my business. With each interaction, my family retreated further into isolation, their decades-old narrative disintegrating in real time. I excused myself from a conversation with a local gallery owner to refresh my drink. The calculated risk had paid off. The public revelation prevented any family attempt to dismiss or minimize my success. Preston appeared beside me at the wine table, his perfect white teeth clenched in a grimace disguised as a smile. He gripped his tumbler of bourbon so tightly I thought it might shatter. "What game are you playing?" he demanded, voice low and aggressive. "There's no way you can afford this place. What did you do? Get some sugar daddy investor to front the cash?" I sipped my champagne, maintaining eye contact. "The perennial house cleared $35 million in revenue last year, Preston. I bought this house with my money. Cash." The satisfaction of watching his eyes widen was worth every second of the years I'd spent hiding my success. He processed the information, his expression shifting as he recalculated his position. I could almost see the mental spreadsheet adjusting behind his eyes. "Why didn't you come to me for investment advice?" he asked, pivoting to salvage his ego. "I could have helped you structure things more efficiently. Tax advantages, offshore accounts." "You never asked about my business." I cut him off. "Not once in all these years. Not a single question about what I was building. Why would I come to you now?" The truth landed like a slap. Preston retreated without another word, making a beeline for Arthur in the corner. They huddled together, their hushed conversation punctuated by frequent glances in my direction. I turned to find Eleanor approaching, her emergency smile firmly in place, the same one she used when Preston crashed the Lexus at 16, or when Dad's racist comments offended dinner guests. "Celeste, darling." She air-kissed near my cheek. "What a lovely surprise. We always knew you were smart with money." The revisionist history had begun already. I sipped my champagne without responding. Arthur joined us, sliding an arm around Eleanor's waist. "Quite the surprising success," he said, emphasizing surprising, as if my achievement were some cosmic accident. "Tell us about your revenue model. How did you scale so quickly without institutional investors?" 8 years too late, they wanted answers. 8 years too late, they were interested in my business. "It's a long story," I replied, offering nothing. "We should have a family business dinner soon," Eleanor suggested, her voice honeyed with newfound respect. "To discuss opportunities. Your father has excellent contacts who might be interested in what you're doing." "Perhaps," I said, non-committal. The power shift was palpable. For the first time in my life, they were chasing me. Across the room, Reese caught my eye, raising an eyebrow in silent question. I gave a slight nod to indicate all was proceeding as planned. He moved through the crowd with practiced ease, stepping in when needed to redirect conversations or extract me from awkward encounters. As the evening progressed, I overheard a fragment of conversation between Arthur and Preston near the bar. "Temporary cash flow issues," Arthur muttered. "But if we can secure that bridge financing." Preston cut him off with a sharp headshake. "The Kensington investment went sideways. I told you it was high risk." I paused by a nearby column, pretending to examine a painting while straining to hear more. "How bad?" Arthur asked, voice tight. "Bad enough," Preston replied. "We need to talk privately, not here." I moved away before they noticed me, processing this new information. The golden boy wasn't so golden after all. For years, I'd assumed Preston's swagger was backed by genuine success. Now, I wasn't so sure. Rather than confront them immediately, I decided to observe. This unexpected vulnerability changed the equation. The knowledge itself was power I hadn't anticipated having tonight. Later, as guests mingled around the custom marble island in the kitchen, I overheard 2 financial analysts discussing Preston's firm. "Heard they lost the Westridge account last month. Major blow." Not surprised. Their last 3 investments underperformed significantly. I filed the information away, maintaining my hostess' smile while circulating through the room. When Reese approached with a fresh glass of champagne, his expression told me he'd heard similar whispers. "Interesting party," he murmured, close to my ear. "Your brother's firm isn't doing as well as he projects. Word is they've missed their last 2 quarterly targets by double digits." I accepted the champagne, our fingers brushing in the exchange. "Interesting," I replied quietly. "Let's keep our eyes open." The family that had dismissed my business acumen for years was now facing their own financial reckoning. I hadn't planned for this additional leverage, but as any good entrepreneur knows, sometimes the most valuable opportunities are the ones you didn't expect to find. 3 months of calculated business maneuvers had transformed the perennial house from a thriving company into a market predator. I sat at my executive desk, reviewing the final acquisition reports with Reese. Outside my office windows, Atlanta's skyline gleamed in the afternoon sun, a testament to ambitions realized. Supply chain acquisition complete, Reese said, sliding another folder across my desk. That makes 7 of Modern Hearth's key suppliers now under our umbrella. I nodded, taking in the numbers. Modern Hearth had been struggling with delivery times and quality control for weeks. Each strategic supplier acquisition had tightened the noose around their operations without leaving any fingerprints leading back to us. The market analysts released their quarterly report this morning, I said, passing him my tablet. They're calling the perennial house the unexpected powerhouse disrupting home goods e-commerce. Reese scrolled through the report, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. And look at this paragraph about Modern Hearth's increasingly erratic business pivots. They're scrambling. On my desk, a notification pinged. The warehouse deal was ready for final approval. Preston had no idea we'd been negotiating behind the scenes to purchase the very building Modern Hearth operated from. One signature, and we'd control their physical distribution center too. Ready for the boardroom? Reese asked, gathering his materials. I stood, smoothing my charcoal suit. Let's finish this. In the sleek conference room overlooking the city, our executive team and lawyers waited. The mood was professional, but charged with anticipation. This wasn't just business, it was the final move in a chess game only Reese and I fully understood. The bankruptcy purchase agreement is ready for your signature, Miss Walker, our lead counsel said, sliding the document toward me. Once filed, you'll own all remaining Modern Hearth assets at approximately 12 cents on the dollar. I signed without hesitation, my signature flowing across the page with the confidence of someone who had been planning this moment for months. Congratulations, the lawyer said. You now own your largest competitor. The meeting concluded with handshakes and nods. No celebration, no champagne. This wasn't about pageantry, it was about power. Back in my office, Reese handed me the industry publication that had just hit the newsstands. The headline blazed across the cover, Modern